Major General Charles Bolden has an unparalleled military service career. He graduated from the United States Naval Academy with a Bachelor of Science. He was then commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. After completing flight training, Major General Bolden became a naval aviator and flew more than 100 combat missions in North and South Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. He earned his Master of Science degree in Systems Management from the University of Southern California. In August 1981, he became a member of NASA's Astronaut Corps, and since then has flown more than 680 hours in space. He has piloted and commanded crews on Columbia, Discovery, and Atlantis. Among these, perhaps the most important was the historic first joint U.S.-Russian space shuttle mission, which took place in 1994. For his distinguished service, Major General Bolden has earned numerous military awards and decorations, as well as countless honorary science degrees from multiple universities. His many years of service and hard work ultimately led to being appointed Administrator of NASA by President Obama in 2009. Today, he is leading NASA towards completing numerous tasks assigned by President Obama, including inspiring children to achieve great things in science and math. He has been quoted as saying, "We are going to turn science fiction into science fact." And he's working to do so by trying to turn NASA's long-term ambition of landing on Mars into a reality. Major General Bolden has flown combat missions in wars, has flown in space, has had his voice sent to Mars, and is here today to help us take our next steps. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to present our guest speaker, Major General Charles Bolden.
Thank you very much for your all too kind remarks and the introduction. And Principal Bolden, you know, that's a great last name, by the way. Little bit different, but that's okay. Assistant Principal Dovman, Assistant Principal Du Bois, Assistant Principal Mamana the third, and Administrator Lightsey. To all the wonderful teachers and the staff who are also with us here today, to you, all the parents. I'm a very emotional person, so I can empathize with some of you today. My guess is that some of the moms and dads, if you have not already done it, will begin to shed a few tears as the ceremony moves on toward the end, and you should be very proud to do that. Because, you know, all of you, loving family and friends, it's an honor to join all of you here today for this very special, momentous occasion. Here's my favorite part, however, to the class of 2016. Congratulations, you did it. You're not very excited, huh? Now, if you're like I was when I started high school and then finished, there were times that I wasn't sure I was going to be sitting where you're sitting today. So it is important that you did it. Graduation is quite an exciting time, and I know it can be anxious for you as well. With this in mind, I thought I'd tell you a quick story. I usually refer to it as Hoot's Law. But perhaps for this occasion, in honor of all of you at Thomas S. Wootton High School, we can call it Woot's Law, just for today. Hoots, or Woot's Law, is named for a good friend and a mentor of mine, Robert Woot Gibson. He's a former naval aviator like me. He's a NASA astronaut who, as the commander of my first space shuttle mission, responsible for the training of our shuttle crew and for me as I was working toward my first flight in space. If you can picture this, I was surrounded by my 6 fellow crew members in a shuttle simulator at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And I really wanted to impress my crew because as the pilot, you're the second in command. And it's important that they have confidence in you and your ability. I was nervous, I will admit, because I really wanted to make a good impression on my crewmates, and I'm not ashamed to tell you I was sweating profusely. During the simulator, as is tradition, all was going well until it wasn't. A shuttle main engine went out just as we lifted off. Boom! Right at liftoff, and while working through our procedure to determine exactly what the cause of the engine failure was, a minor electrical issue popped up, a distraction from the real problem. Well, the way that our tasks are divided in the shuttle, the pilot sits on the right side, commander sits on the left side, and we have all the controls and instruments and everything. The pilot's responsible for all electronics, electrical stuff, all fuel systems, the main engines, you name it. And the commander does the computers and the environmental control system in addition to taking care of the crew. So instead of focusing on the cause of the engine failure, which had started our problem, I, wanting to impress my crew, worked to fix the electrical problem, since that was the most recent one and everybody knew we had it. And I misdiagnosed a minor electrical problem, and accidentally, by taking off a switch to avoid a short, killed the power to a second of our 3 main engines. Now, leaving only a single engine working, and in the space shuttle, that won't get you to orbit. So there we were after I had taken my speedy action. It got really quiet. And instead of being alive and in the air on the way to space, there we were laying all dead in the ocean, all in the cockpit with really quiet. And Hoot, my commander, reached over, gave me a nice little pat on my shoulder, and he said, "Charles?" It was sort of like growing up in South Carolina. Whenever I was in trouble, I always knew it because my mother would say, "Charles Frank," and I knew that was trouble. So Hoot said, "Charles, did I ever tell you about Hoot's Law?" And I kind of lifted my head from embarrassment, and I responded that he hadn't. Hoot said, "Well, it goes a little bit like this. No matter how bad things get, you can always make them worse." And you know what? If you haven't learned this yet, you should. Stuff happens. The late, great Robert Kennedy once said, "Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly." There will be good days as you go forth from Wootton. There will be bad days. There will be days when you make stuff a little worse or a little better for the folks around you. The key is to take a deep breath, relax, and remember that you are neither the first person nor the last who will ever have faced adversity. Scripture teaches that what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. As the administrator of NASA, an agency where we are learning new things about our sun, Earth, and the infinite universe surrounding us every single day, I can attest that although the discoveries may be new, the very human challenges all of us face throughout our lives are essentially the same. So as you face these challenges, I hope you'll keep in mind that you are not alone. You've gotten today to where you are today because of the help and sacrifice other people made in your life, be they your parents, your family, your teachers, friends, and others. I hope you'll know this as well. NASA needs you. In fact, we're counting on you. You see, you are part of what I like to call the space generation. President Obama refers to you as the Mars generation. Most of you have lived almost your entire lives, almost every single second of your life, in times when we have had human beings from different countries living and working together in space. This past week, I had the chance to spend some time with one of those incredible astronauts and good friends of mine, Scott Kelly, who was in Washington, D.C. to make visits to members of Congress and talk with our NASA employees about his incredible one-year mission on the International Space Station, only a few months after posting some absolutely breathtaking pictures of Washington from his perch there in the International Space Station. So many things that are a fact of life for you today would have been unthinkable to my generation when I was in high school. Snapchat, Facebook, Google, Instagram, text messages, smartphones, GPS-guided cars, streaming movies or Netflix or Amazon, shopping on Amazon, satellite radio, satellite television, the internet. The list goes on and on and on. Someday, and I promise you it will come sooner than you think, when you get to be my age and you're talking with young folk in your own children's and grandchildren's generation, it will surely be a fact of life for them that human beings are living and working on Mars. In fact, this will very likely be the case because someone in your generation, perhaps one of you in the sea of blue out in front of us, will be one of the first human beings to set foot on Mars. Think about that for a moment. Just think about that. You see, at NASA, we're on a journey to Mars, and this journey will culminate in sending American astronauts to the red planet in the 2030s. Do the math. It's 14 years from now. You know, you haven't been in school 14 years. So double it, and we'll be sending one of you, perhaps, to Mars. Today, this journey is well underway. We recently accepted a record number of applicants for the new astronaut class of 2017, 18,300. The last class selected, which was one of the largest ever, the class of 2013, and this happens to be a great source of pride to me, of 6,800 applicants, we selected 8. It has 4 men and 4 women. To my knowledge, that's the first time that we have had a split like that in anything I know in NASA and probably in anything anywhere, where the talent was so great that we ended up with 50% men, 50% women. Now, unfortunately, the same cannot be said for participation in the so-called STEM careers of science, technology, engineering, and math. It's a priority for both the president's and of mine to reverse this trend so that more female students and more students from minority and other underserved populations will pursue careers in these areas. Whatever path you choose to take, please know this: NASA needs you. In fact, we're waiting for you. Because getting to Mars is not a journey any one agency or any one person or any one nation can undertake. We need you to become teachers who will inspire your own students to reach for new heights, much as your teachers here at Wootton have inspired you. We need you to become engineers and scientists. We need you to become entrepreneurs who will start your own companies. We need you to become doctors who will treat our future astronauts and poets who will inspire them. Along these lines, we need you to become painters and musicians, much like the absolutely incredible musicians on the stage today. I told a few of your members, you were awesome. And although the chamber singers went that way, they likewise were awesome. You know, it's always interesting. Oh, some of you are down. Well, you were awesome. You know, it's really nice. I have never been in Constitution Hall before, but I know it is a great hall of great concerts and the like, and just hearing your voices echo off the ceilings and the walls and everything else, it brought life to this otherwise lifeless building without you and what you bring, and the same thing for the orchestra. We actually need you to become human resources professionals. One of our greatest achievements at NASA, and it almost mirrors what you've done at Wootton, because as I read about you, your class, your school, you are an institution of excellence, and you are recognized for your excellence over and over and over again. One of our greatest achievements at NASA is that we've been rated the #1 best place to work in the federal government for 4 years in a row now. We need you to be mentors, athletes, astronomers, carpenters, nurses, skill machinists, saleswomen and men, attorneys, accountants. The list goes on and on. My generation is counting on you to complete this journey and begin the next. As you prepare for it, I want to issue to you this challenge. Be bold. Be fearless. Dream big. And by all means, don't listen to anyone who tells you you can't do something or you don't belong. Hear me out, because you'll not remember a single thing I've said. But hear me out on this, particularly you young ladies. Do not waste your time trying to explain yourself or your identity to someone. Don't feel like you have to justify why you are where you are. This applies in the workplace or anywhere else. Do what you do and do it well. And then those folk who still don't understand why you're there, sooner or later they'll be working for you. And you can take care of that. In my younger days, my dream was to attend the United States Naval Academy, not very far from here, and to serve my country, just as my father and uncles had done in World War II when African Americans had to fight for the right to serve in our armed forces and defend this country. Growing up in the days of segregation, it was an uphill battle. When I came of age, because of the color of my skin, no one in my South Carolina congressional delegation would provide an appointment nor nomination to the Academy as was required for admission. So I wrote President Lyndon Johnson, and I asked for help. Now, make no mistake, I got no response, at least not from him. But within a week, a Navy recruiter was at my door. Later, a retired federal judge who had been sent out across the country by President Johnson seeking out qualified young men and women at that time of color, came to my high school. And so I believe that it is possible that my letter to the president led to Congressman William Dawson of Illinois providing me the appointment I needed to be accepted. After having to fight just for the opportunity to be admitted, my classmates at the Naval Academy did me the honor, I have no idea why, to be quite honest, of electing me class president. Today, after a 34-year career in the Marine Corps, I have the honor of serving as administrator of NASA under the nation's first black president. Having offered you a challenge, let me leave you with some advice, and I hate giving advice, so I'll make it brief. Work really, really hard. Study hard all the time. When you become like me, continue to study. You can never, ever, ever know too much. And most of all, don't be afraid to fail. Do not be afraid to fail. That's why I told you, be bold, take risks, but take smart risks. That third piece of advice is often the hardest for folks of all ages to comprehend, so I want to repeat it. It's okay to fail. I opened with the story of Woot's Law. I want to close with a quote that reinforces a similar theme. It's actually the text of a commercial. You're probably a little young to have seen it, but perhaps your parents or grandparents in attendance will recognize it. And I quote, I miss more than, and this is kind of timely considering those of you who are basketball fans watched Steph Curry last night, do his thing. But this is a quote. I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Those are the words of the great Michael Jordan, and I hope you'll take them to heart. It's okay to fail. I hope you'll take your own role in NASA's journey to Mars to heart. I also hope that you'll have a splendid time celebrating this momentous occasion, surrounded by people you love. You will never be alone. You will never be alone. May your joy, success, and potential stretch all the way to Mars. Congratulations, class of 2016.